For the past year in 2024, I've used the Hobonichi Weeks as a weekly sketch journal. And I have the first half of this sketchbook in another video, which I'll link below. This one will be about the second half of 2024, a tour through the sketchbook. And I also thought I would mention 8 different things that I've noticed that were helpful for me in coming up with ideas of what to draw every week, just like kind of overall themes, in case maybe it would be helpful for you as well if you're starting a new journal practice. I've always thought that you're just sort of naturally supposed to want to keep a sketchbook as an artist. Like, it's just, you know, you're so inspired and you just have to get the ideas out. Like, it's some kind of like romantic idea that I had about sketchbook. But I've really learned that it's a practice that you have to work towards and maintain. At least it is for me. So working in the Hobonichi Weeks has been great because it is dated, and something about it being dated is just very motivating. The weekly check-in seems to be a good amount of time, and you know, it makes it into like a little bit more of an actual journal, because I can look back on what I was thinking during that week and what I was inspired by or what I was looking at. I'll get started with the first one from June. This was inspired by Untermeyer Gardens in Yonkers, but it was really more like a memory of it. I did look at the photos that I took just to see kind of what elements were there, but it's mostly, you know, a remembered kind of landscape. So that's my first theme for sketch journaling that I want to put out there, is a memory, like a visual memory or a place that you've been, or drawing something from memory. And most of these that I'm about to show are done with Posca acrylic paint markers. So the next week, I think this might have been a little bit inspired by the quote at the bottom of the page, which I'll get more into later, but it's really more of like a media experimentation, I think, with just using a fountain pen on top of Posca marker. And I love the metallics, as you'll see throughout this sketchbook. This is another favorite. I use these little stickers to mark my favorites. I really just wanted to draw more people in general, and kind of incorporating like some florals into it, and kind of leaning on color is how I kind of inspire myself to incorporate more people into my drawings. This is like something that I really want to do this coming year too, is like more, just more illustrations with people and not non-specific people. So I had a lot of fun doing this one, and it was kind of like, as I said, kind of pushing myself to do something that I don't normally do in the sketchbook. Not my favorite. I'm really showing you the whole thing, including the ones that I can't stand, including this cat that I drew kind of in a folk art style and kind of from memory. It's like I've never seen a cat before. You know, not the best drawing. I'm just gonna go by this one quickly. This was inspired by Sonia Delaunay exhibition that I saw at the Bard Graduate Center, which I'll put some photos from there up on screen. I just really love the different colors that I would probably never normally use this color scheme, but mainly I wanted to experiment with just using brush pen. This was a Pilot Pocket brush pen on top of the Posca marker, kind of pulling some elements from Sonia Delaunay's work. So that's my number 2 theme for art journaling, is different exhibitions and shows that maybe you would go see. Or I find that it's rewarding to look back on exhibitions and things that I've gone to see in person and have sort of this memory of something that I particularly liked there. So in July, I started taking this botany course, which I talked a little bit about in a previous video that I did about the Drawtober challenge. So a lot of the following week's drawings were based on photos that I took during our breaks. So these are zinnias. And then for the following week, some nasturtiums that I saw in the garden. A third thing that is maybe specific to Hobonichi and other journals that have sort of quotes at the bottom, or some other text already there. I found that if I really couldn't think of anything, or if I just wanted to get out of my usual themes, like you'll see it mainly botanical theme, then I really liked reading the quotes at the bottom of the pages. This one was about Giacometti, so I'll read it to you. It says, Giacometti is famous for, which I drew over it, for his long, thin sculptures, but he actually wanted to sculpt exactly what he saw. The more he stared at the model and kept cutting away the clay, the longer and skinnier the sculptures would become. So I basically just used this as an opportunity to experiment a little bit more with like using the pen and using Posca acrylic pen together. So this was a pretty fun one. So more botanicals from Brooklyn Botanic Garden. The quote at the bottom of the page here has to do with the Olympics, so that's why I drew this little Olympic thing. This flower is called Cleome. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but such a crazy looking alien flower. I really like this. More Brooklyn Botanic Garden water lilies. And this might be the last one, I think, from the Botanic Garden series, I guess. This was from, we did a flower dissection in the class, which I thought would make a really interesting little drawing. And again, I love using the metallics for some reason. It's just like very satisfying, especially on this paper. So this was drawn in pen, and then I think in gel pen or maybe fountain pen, and then Posca, and then also colored pencil a little bit. This is another one that was based on the page quote. So when I was little, I was stargazing with my father, and he told me that if someone could watch us from the same number of light years away as it takes the light from us to reach them, they would be able to see us forever. When I heard that, I realized that thinking about the universe is the same as thinking about death. So I kind of love that quote. I tried to make, a landscape that kind of reflected the mood of that quote. And this was with, the color here was pasta marker. It's like a waxy crayon. I think I showed it a little bit in the previous video. This is another one that I have to say it's not my favorite, even though it was kind of a record of me having seen my niece that weekend. So these are just quick drawings of her from photos that I took. And this is another favorite. What I really like about the Weeks format and the proportion is being able to kind of paint on either side of the line and kind of have this like dual, like a diptych type deal. I don't think this had anything to do with the quote, and I'm trying to remember what I was thinking about aside from Staffordshire figurines. I'll put some pictures up. And I ended up using this idea because I really like how it turned out as a Riso print, which I'll also put up to show you on screen. This was another one from an art exhibit that I went to. I talked a little bit about this one in the previous video that was the Drawtober. This was a folk art museum exhibition about Shaker gift drawings. And I'll put the actual image up on screen. So as we start to get into fall, this was from September. Another theme to think about, maybe it could be like a seasonal change or a seasonal moment. This was based on some maybe pumpkin or squash leaves I saw just when I was out for a walk. And this is really one of my favorites too, I think. And it's just such a small thing and a small memory, but it's nice to document those things, I think, too, not just like big events. And then another thing you could think about is documenting a cultural moment. I think things like this are kind of fun to look back on. Obviously, mooding. Going back through old journals, it's probably, I imagine, I say I imagine because I've never kept a journal for that long. And it would be nice to look back and see like what was going on in the world or like what people were talking about. So that's one thing you could think about in keeping a sketch journal. And another thing is, this was a recipe that I tried from the New York Times, which was, I remember being pretty good. I guess I would recommend it. And this was done with brush pen and Posca marker. And the quote on the bottom of the page was actually about cooking as well. So kind of a two-in-one theme recommendation there. But again, like just the idea of like documenting small things and small moments. And then this was when I went with my brother and my sister-in-law and my niece to go see this great elephant migration installation that was, I think it was in Chelsea somewhere. And I'll put some images up of the actual thing. These were life-sized elephants that were made from like an invasive weed. And I'm not going to be the best at describing this installation, but it was called the Great Elephant Migration, if you're interested in checking out more about that. I think it's like a traveling exhibit too, so it's been in different places throughout the world. This is another not great one, but I think I was thinking about the page quote here. If there are 100 people, there will be 100 opinions. It's just kind of like, and I was thinking about like postage stamp shapes and ways to incorporate that. So some kind of like judgy ladies. I don't know. Not my favorite. This was from October, so another kind of like seasonal documentation, because I had just gone to see in Greenwood Cemetery, they do every year Day of the Dead installation, and marigolds are part of the symbolism. And then the following week, I drew from photos that I took from the cemetery. I think I had tried to draw while I was there on site, but I just wasn't loving anything that I was doing. So I tend to work from photos a lot. This was another one based on some art that I saw, a jug from Italy, 1490s from the Met. I love doing this side-by-side thing in the weeks. I drew this more or less from the actual thing, and then I kind of just mirrored it, so it doesn't actually look like this in real life. I don't know what's on the other side. And again from the Met, sometimes I can get like 2 weeks of drawing from one cultural event that I do, or like a museum I go to. And I marked this one as one of my favorites too. This was, if you've been to the Met, then you definitely know where this is, I think. And I really loved how it looks there in the fall too. So another seasonal kind of documentation. And then this is another theme, I think, or an idea, kind of going back to what I said before, documenting a visual inspiration, something that's not necessarily from an exhibit or something that you went to see. This was just something I saw, and I'll put the artist's name and the inspiration here that I saw on Pinterest. I really love this artist's work, whose name I'm not thinking of right now, which is going to be here. And I love these like stripy flowers and a silhouette kind of thing. I've sort of incorporated that a little bit into some illustration work I've done recently too, which hopefully not pulling too much from this artist, but definitely inspired by her work or their work, and kind of just like playing with colors too. This was another favorite. Again, just documenting small things, or the idea that I wanted to learn how to crochet. And another sort of seasonal bouquet, but sort of also like media experimentation. So just like mixing this kind of gel pen with the marker. And this is kind of documenting and kind of a practice run at a portrait of my friend's new dog. I'll put a picture of the final painting that I sent to her. And another documentation of just seasons changing, the first snow that we had in Brooklyn. I love this one too. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. This is just the view from my window, incorporating some of the gold Posca into the sky and like a limited color palette. And getting near towards the end, drawings from a seed catalog that I had saved, trying out Tombow markers. And so both Tombow markers and Posca marker and brush pen. And just wrapping up this year, but again from the seed catalog. What I was thinking here was actually that these would be kind of like fireworks. I did a new version of this. This is another Hobonichi planner that I'm using for 2025. And I kind of did a redo of this fireworks idea for the opening spread of this one. So just to quickly recap these 8 ideas for sketch journaling. Number 1 was draw a memory. And that could be either from memory, from reference, or a combination of both. Number 2, document an art experience. For example, galleries, museums, public art, maybe a performance that you went to. Number 3, illustrate a quote. Number 4, document seasonal changes. Number 5, document a cultural moment. Number 6, document a food-related experience, like a new recipe, a restaurant, a dinner party. Number 7, record visual inspiration. And this could be from media, not necessarily from real life, as in a gallery or something like that. It could be from books, Pinterest, wherever you happen to see something you're interested in. And number 8, document everyday life events. And this is even and maybe especially small life events like visiting family, a friend's new dog, a birthday. If you want to see more sketchbook videos like this, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And leave a comment and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. And Happy New Year. Thanks.